Hi everyone, Lisa Haven here, and I've got one heck of a story to share with you, specifically in regards to Stonehenge. Well, according to an article that I'm about to show you, they claim that Julius Caesar wrote a letter that exposed some of the secrets that are hidden inside that monument. So I'm going to get into that. Not only that, but I'm going to get into who I think built the Stonehenge monument and why, and I'm going to use evidence from the Smithsonian's own vault to prove it to you. Now, before we get into the report, just a quick break.
The world is changing, and that fact is all over our headlines. And when it does change, it only takes one major disaster to prove how fragile life really is. Let's not forget what happened with Hurricane Dorian that made landfall as a Category 5 storm, ravaging the entire area of the Bahamas, leaving many people dead and over 70,000 people without a home to live in. These produced waves of over 23 feet in height. This is the kind of crisis I'm talking about. When emergency strikes, are you prepared for days without electricity or maybe even weeks without any foods from the grocery store? If not, today is the day to act. Make sure you have a plan. Make sure you are ready in the event of a disaster. You see, I personally use My Patriot Supply because they are leading the way in all preparedness. And right now you can get not only emergency food supply, but gear and water filtration on their website that you can use to be prepared for anything. If you act now, you can save $100 on the 4-week food supply kit. Just go to preparewithlisa.com. That's preparewithlisa.com. These tasty 4-week food kits last up to 25 years in storage and average over 2,000 calories per day. Order right now and get free shipping from My Patriot Food Supply too. And discreetly, it comes right to your door. Don't ignore the writing on the wall and don't be a victim of catastrophe. Make sure you get out in the forefront and take action before something takes action over you. Check it out again at preparewithlisa.com. All right, back to the broadcast.
All right, so let's just dive right into the article itself so you can see what I'm talking about. But express.co.uk, and the article's titled Stonehenge Breakthrough. Julius Caesar Letter Exposes Secret of Prehistoric Monument. Now notice the date this was put out, October 17th, 2019, so very recent. And it states, a letter written by the Roman leader Julius Caesar details the secret rituals carried out by the mysterious monument that has puzzled the world for centuries. A new documentary has revealed. Now, this article is actually gathering its information and referencing the Amazon Prime television documentary Stonehenge, the Temple of the Druids. So it's kind of where they got it. But according to this documentary, this is what they say. They say this: the main source of information regarding the Druids was Julius Caesar, Roman general and conqueror of Wales, who wrote that all these people would get together once a year in a sacred place within which to carry out secret rituals. That was the Stonehenge area. So what is this ritual that they actually carried out? Well, this is found a little bit later in the report where it says this: consider this analogy. This is about their ritual, okay? If wood is associated with the transistory nature of life and the female aspect of nature, then on the other side of the token, the hard rock, that's the hard rock at Stonehenge, is associated with the inevitability of death and the male aspect of nature. Now, let me just pause right there. They're basically saying the Druids believed the Stonehenge represented death, and then this wood pile, which you're going to see is a few miles further north of Stonehenge, you'll find the site of a huge circular embankment at Durrington Wells. This is kind of wood pile. And this wood pile on the other side represented life, right? So then he goes on to expand a little bit more. These are, in fact, circles of wooden poles where supposedly rituals took place, signifying the passage from life to death, whereupon the deceased were transported by boat from Stonehenge via the Avon River. So basically, what they're saying in this documentary is that the Druids had a ritual, then basically they would send their dead between this passage on the Avon River, between the Stonehenge and this wood pile, and one represented life, one represented death. So that was kind of the ritual that they performed. Now, that said, one very key critical point here is at the very bottom of this article. And it's this: scholars believe that Stonehenge existed long before the Druids, which it did, perhaps predating them by 2,000 years. In other words, the Druids were there, and yes, they did rituals. However, that wasn't the original purpose of Stonehenge, because it goes back and predates the Druids by over 2,000 years. So we have to keep that in mind. So therefore, what was the original purpose of Stonehenge? Now, a lot of people will claim different things, everything from portals to they're linked with ley lines, to UFOs, to big massive burial grounds underneath Stonehenge, to giants, to everything under the sun, to maybe just even rituals itself. What do I believe? Well, here's what I believe. I actually believe that in order to build something like Stonehenge, you needed technology beyond your years. That's a fact. Nobody denies. So what could give them the technology? Of course, you can get it from your demonic powers, your fallen angels, your UFOs and whatnot, but you can also get them, biblically speaking, in the Bible, it talks about giants. Giants are all over written in the scriptures. So I believe that giants could have actually helped or built the actual Stonehenge facility or Stonehenge monument, in which they used to worship false gods and whatnot, is obviously what I believe. And could it be a portal and other things? Sure. These are all just theories and speculations. But here's why I believe giants are linked to that. Because if we go all around the world, we can find all kinds of these newspaper clippings on giants. I'm just going to show you. Here's one of an 8-foot man. Here's another giant. This is the San Diego giant. This one is a massive detail. I encourage you to read that. But these are actual newspaper clippings that come from all over the world. Now, there's actually a website here, sydhav.no, and this particular website details all the newspaper clippings of giants and how they've been detailed, the sizes of giants ranging from 7 foot to 9 foot to even higher. But these are clippings gathered literally from all around the world, from newspapers all around the world. And they all date back to around earlier times, because now the Smithsonian hides the information. And here's just some more on that. So these are the kinds of things that you can find all across the world. There's actual skeleton evidence for giants. And I'm going to prove it to you, because maybe newspaper clippings aren't enough. Maybe you need some actual information from the Smithsonian itself. Well, here we are on Library of Congress. And in this Library of Congress, we actually have an admitted statement from someone who worked jointly with the Smithsonian. But this was published April 12th, 1883. It's page 6, image 6. And you want to take it and basically scroll all the way to this little paragraph here. And it states this: Mr. John W. Emmerich, employed by the Bureau of Ethnology of the Smithsonian Institute at Washington, has lately explored a mound at Bristol, Tennessee, and secured some interesting and valuable Indian relics. Among other things in the mound was found the skeleton of a gigantic Indian. Again, this is a guy who worked in the Smithsonian admitting that he found a giant Indian. That's not all. Let's scroll on over to this. Now, this is put out on the Smithsonian's own site here, Smithsonian Libraries, but this is the annual report of Bureau of Ethnology of the Secretary of the Smithsonian Institute. Again, you have to go all the way back to these years to get it, because they don't admit it now, they hide it. But this report basically details some of their excavating of mounds. So, those big mounds in Ohio and West Virginia, and even some in Tennessee. This is them excavating some of those and what they found inside, right? So let's go on over here. Here we are. Page 52. The skeleton found lying in the middle of the floor of the vault was of unusually large size, measuring 7 feet 6 inches in length and 19 inches between the shoulder sockets. And basically, it had also been enclosed in a wrapping or coffin of bark remains. So there you have it. That's a very large, giant that they found inside one of these mounds. But that's not the only case. Here's another one. This is on page 35, and it states, near the original surface, some 10 to 12 feet from the center on the lower side, was discovered lying in full length on its back an unusually large skeleton, the length it being something over 7 feet in length. So pretty huge. Here's another one here, and this is on page 57, and this one's pretty interesting. But it states here, At the depth of 13 feet and a little north of the center of the mound were two very large skeletons in a seating posture with their extended legs interlocked at the knees. So again, another account of an actual, skeleton. Now this one's pretty interesting too. This is annual report of the Board of Regents of the Smithsonian, and this one's from 1877, so a few years further in the future from the other one, but this one also details some of the things that they found in mounds. Now this is on page 274 if you want to look it up for yourself, and scroll right to the bottom. He says this: however, I obtained some very interesting relics here, among them two beautiful pieces of ivory carved with precision seldom seen among Indians. So very precise article. They were made from the tusk probably of the mastodon. The larger one must have come from the tusk of a monster for it to furnish such material. The gorgets have two holes on the edge near each other, and they were most probably worn suspended on the breast and may have been emblems of authority. One of them was in the grave of a giant. In the grave of a giant. This means they came across giants often. For a large man could pass the lower jaw bone around his face, and the thigh bone was 4 inches longer than that of a man 6 feet 2 inches high. That means this man had to be pretty dang big, and it's all accounted here in the Smithsonian. Now, I went a little bit longer than I would have liked to, but here you can see that giants do indeed exist, and that there is obviously a cover-up from the Smithsonian. How is it that we have to go all the way back to the 1800s to get the information, yet mysteriously none exist today? Well, good question. Not to mention, what is actual Stonehenge? I mean, we have the information, the letter from Julius Caesar. While that does answer that Druids were involved, it still doesn't answer what was the original intent of Stonehenge, which is why I believe that giants had their play in that, had their part in that. Could it be linked to portals? Absolutely. Could it be linked to UFOs and rituals dedicated to some of these Nephilim or fallen angels in the past? And I think that's exactly what it could have been linked and used for, is the satanic rituals, your rituals to your fallen angels and your Nephilim, and the things written about not only in the Bible, but in extra biblical texts such as the Book of Enoch, the Book of Yasher. Interesting things to read nonetheless. Anyhow, I'd love to get your thoughts, comments, and concerns. Please don't forget to subscribe and like the channel. Also, I've got a big announcement coming up on Saturday, so please make sure you watch that video. Anyhow, thanks again for tuning in. I'm Lisa Haven, signing out.